Good afternoon. Thank you for joining Manns Law Office PLLC for our 16th anniversary. We are so excited. We have been in business and practicing for 16 years. My name is Qiana Manns. I am an attorney and mediator, and we have a great panel discussion for you all today as we commemorate 16 years, the sweet 16. We're really about to show out now. So, our discussion for today is legal disputes don't quarantine. Black attorneys are still working in COVID-19. And I have a beautiful set of individuals for you to hear and listen to today who have been practicing some for 41 years. So we are talking about a wisdom, a tree of wisdom. A foundation that you are going to be able to hear and learn from today. I have my co-host who will be helping me with this program, who we office together, and he is a jewel and a friend of mine, Athill Muhammad. And we are going to go forward with this program, and hopefully you learn something. We hope to celebrate with you and come into the new year with you having more knowledge, more understanding of why we're here and what it is that we do and how we can better serve you. So let me introduce this Black man who's going to help me here today. Athill Muhammad. Athill Muhammad was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I'm from California, so West Side, you know, East Side, we are all over the place. He graduated from Edward Murrow High School in 1981. After graduation, his pursuits took him to Lincoln University, the premier historically Black college in Chester County, Pennsylvania, where he earned his Bachelor's of Arts in Political Science in 1985 and subsequently went to the University of the District of Columbia in Washington, D.C., where he graduated with the discipline of urban policy in 1988 through 1989. While living in Washington, D.C. area, Mr. Muhammad worked in retail and later held an executive management position where he was chiefly responsible for drafting requests for proposals, negotiating and drafting contracts, and overseeing and training security site managers in scheduling, budgeting, and payroll administration for on-site security officers for a nationwide security company. Driven by his West Indian heritage, and he puts on that accent, you know, when he needs it, to pursue his lifelong dream of becoming an attorney, Mr. Muhammad eventually left the Washington, D.C. area for Houston, Texas in December 2001. Proudly earned his doctorate of jurisprudence from Texas Southern University, Thurgood Marshall School of Law, graduating with honors and earning a listing in Who's Who among the American Law Students 2001 publication. Since licensing, Mr. Muhammad has dedicated his practice to the endeavors of employment discrimination and age discrimination, as amended by the Civil Rights Matter of Title 623, and representing persons accused of crimes. So he also does criminal law as well in representation. Civil, criminal, federal. I mean, he does it all except family. He kind of leaves something for me to do. Okay. Over these several years of dedication, Mr. Muhammad has represented clients in proceedings and hearings with both federal and state agencies and entities, including the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission and courts of competent jurisdiction, representing clients in matters concerning police misconduct, which we know is going on all throughout. That's another pandemic that we're dealing with, and civil rights violations. He's been involved in litigation involving federal death penalty cases and has represented persons across the state of Texas accused of crimes and administrative violations in both federal and state court. In addition to the admission to the State Bar of Texas, Mr. Muhammad is admitted to practice before the United States District Court for the Southern District of Texas, the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Texas, and the United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit. Mr. Muhammad serves as a member of the NAACP, Houston Community Legal Redress Committee, and holds membership with the American Bar Association, the Houston Lawyers Association, and the Omega Psi Phi fraternity. Look, I have to get it right because you see he has his colors on. He has served as a panelist on the Marshall Foundation Against Gun Violence seminar in Houston, Texas in 2008 and 2015. Excuse me, in 2013 and 2016, the NAACP Community Law Seminar, Houston, Texas in 2008 and 2015, served as a judge for both Thurgood Marshall School of Law and South Texas College of Law mock trial competitions, served on the Houston Volunteer Lawyers Hotline, was a presenter and spoke on the topic of ethics and indigent representation at the 4th Annual Honorable Craig Washington and Senator Rodney Ellis Excellence in Indigent Defense Series ABA 10th Annual Summit on Indigent Defense Improvement at the Thurgood Marshall School of Law in 2015, and has been a guest on various national blog talk radio shows, offering unique insight and perspectives on various legal issues and topics. He will be joining us today. He will be co-hosting with me today. So he's going to give you some information, hopefully that you will know we're out here, how it is that we all are affected by COVID. And I'm going to pass it on to Attorney Athill Muhammad.
Sorry about that, family. I didn't realize one thing that Sister Qiana did not say is that my non-tech savvy stuff, I started talking and realized that I did not unmute myself. But thank you so very much, ma'am, for this opportunity. And before we actually begin, I just want to congratulate you on your 16th year, your sweet 16th year in practice. And I'm honored to, be considered a friend of yours and I guess, some sort of a mentor, if you will. And I'm just so honored to have been asked to be on this panel and to share in your 16th anniversary celebration. As a member, also as Sister Qiana, was mentioning, that we also serve on the legal team for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan on Nation of Islam, which is probably, I guess, my proudest accomplishment, serving as a staff lawyer with the Office of General Counsel, Minister and General Counsel Abdul Arif Muhammad. And we all here in Houston, the attorneys in the Nation of Islam, we serve proudly and assist proudly in those endeavors, which has in truth fueled my passion and practice. And so with this pandemic, as we all know, it has had a tremendous impact on us. But what's particular about the impact is, some of us know who practice here in Texas, and of course here in Harris County, Houston, Harris County, that Governor Greg Abbott back in late March had issued what is known and throughout the country a stay-at-home order, and that has actually had a profound impact on the legal community. When the issue was first, or an order rather, was first issued, it accepted or exempted essential personnel or essential workers, which actually included lawyers. But the interesting thing is that it has had a profound effect on the way that lawyers have been operating, and particularly those of us who may practice in the area of criminal defense, in other words, representing persons accused of crimes. An interesting statistic that I had come across is, of all of the crimes that seem to have been lessened, and we'll get to why some of those arrests and whatnot have actually dropped. The key thing is domestic violence has actually seemed to have increased. And the studies suggest that because of the stay-at-home orders, or the issuance of the stay-at-home orders, that people are obviously home more. and exposing themselves to domestic violence issues. And so there have been across the state, and particularly, I guess, the one agency here, the Houston Area Women's Center, has experienced an increase of some 40% of domestic violence crisis calls, with abused women seeking assistance because of them being exposed to domestic violence and abusers in their home, potentially and particularly as a result of these stay-at-home orders. Another study or statistic that we had come across as we were talking about with the essential businesses or essential persons, one thing that was interesting is that gun shops were considered an essential business. And that seems to have had a trickle-down theory in the sense that guns, gun stores or gun shops that are now open, people obviously have access to guns, and that seems to have been correlated to a potential increase in domestic violence here in Texas, and actually in a lot of jurisdictions around this country. So Texas is not the only state or jurisdiction that has seen an increase in domestic violence cases. Other states as well as also around the country, around the world, excuse me. But in addition to that, though, the ironic thing is most other crimes, though, have actually seen a decrease in decrease. Well, there's been a decrease in crimes is what it amounts to. And particularly, for instance, one study showed that in 2019, there was an average of about 25,000 felony cases filed each month across the state of Texas. However, after the pandemic, the stay-at-home order in March of 2020, about 21, those cases had dropped from approximately 25,000 down to 21,000 in March, and really had a drastic drop all the way down to about 16,000 in April. Steady increase, though, in May of 2020, where it increased to about 20,000, and it seems to have leveled off as commencing in June to about 22,000. The interesting thing is that the thought is that a lot of your misdemeanor crimes have actually dipped, and one reason suggests that a lot of your misdemeanor crimes and most of your misdemeanor crimes deal with DUIs or driving while intoxicated or DWI, and also a lot of your drug offenses. However, because there has been a reduction in actual police stops across the state of Texas, and again, these things also deal with states as well, because officers are not trying to expose themselves to the pandemic. Of course, then there are fewer traffic stops. Of course, the fewer traffic stops translates into fewer drug-related crimes or DWI or DUI crimes, and Texas has certainly been shown that as well. Now, one of the other concerns that there's that Texas jails, the prisons, and a lot of the county jails have experienced a high rate of COVID contractions, if you will. And I would, that also correlates into, in my opinion, where the reduction or the thought to reduce a lot of your traffic stops because of the high infectious rates that is permeating the Texas state jails and the county jails. And so this is all has an effect on the criminal justice system, in the sense that even some of the courts in Dallas County, here in Harris County, in Fort Bend County, the justices have actually sent out mandates that if persons are not accused of violent crimes, and this may also be related to the bond issue that had actually come down to pre-bond and pre-bail issues, but nonetheless, I still have the opinion that this also deals with the pandemic. But fewer persons are actually coming to court now. And of course, that is also affects other areas of practice, but particularly in the criminal accusation arena. So the pandemic has definitely come into play and affected crime, and it affected court appearances with people being accused. But nonetheless, rest assured, audience, and those panelists, that hey, we as Black attorneys know fully well and are fully equipped with making the adjustments to make sure that persons accused of crimes or any other persons who may have legal issues, that their issues are well taken care of, because we are here to serve. And although the pandemic is out there, it has not stopped any of us from being able to represent your interests and your needs. Mr. Qiana?
Thank you. So we wanted to kind of set the tone so you know kind of what it is that we're seeing in the legal profession and how it is that we're seeing that the cases are developing as we kind of all live through this pandemic and in this time. As far as our panel here, we have a wealth of information with different attorneys who've experienced different areas of practice. And as I was saying, I am mainly family law. I do child support, custody, CPS representation, anything, divorces, anything that has to do with the family unit, the family structure, the children, the parents, relatives, all of that has been nonstop as you hear the statistics in terms of the domestic violence rate that is growing. I have actually not really had any lull during the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been constant calls and cases with child protective services, also with divorce situation, with custody battles, and people are really kind of wanting to hear what it is that they can do at this time, how it is that we can help them, what is the legal landscape right now for these types of cases. So we wanted to give you all an opportunity to hear from the experts, the boots on the ground, the people who are doing the work. And I am going to introduce our panel. Those who are here, we will have others joining us, but those who are here, I am going to do ladies first because of course, you can't go anywhere without the ladies. And the statistics does show, of course, we're a small group. The female attorneys are a small group in the overall attorney scheme of things. And then when you're talking about Black female attorneys, you're talking about a smaller percentage. And so we have worked together, Ms. Scott and I, and we have a group of Black female attorneys who we gather and we talk and we support each other. And we're mentors for each other when needed. We're helpers and associates when we need to bring each other in and on. And so it is something that is a pleasure to share this panel with in terms of working with Ms. Scott. And let me introduce you to her, or her to you. Okay, so Ms. Scott has studied in psychology with a minor in political science at Texas Southern University. And after moving on to get her JD from Thurgood Marshall School of Law, she worked as a lawyer for the DA of Cameron County for 2 years. She was on the other side, y'all, so she knows some stuff. The truth is that when she graduated law school, she believed she wanted to work for the government. But she soon realized it was really just, she wanted to be her own boss. And she has been her own boss for a while now. So she opened her firm in 2010 and chose to focus on family law and other areas that, you know, she's led to. I can really say she has a bleeding heart. I thought I was one. So she kind of serves for the cases that comes in front of her. But she is, excuse my French, a badass when you're talking about a criminal lawyer coming to you and representing, but she will really take and handle all kind of things because I've seen it. Her clients could tell you that she's very personable. She feels comfortable with her clients calling her and referring to her as Annie, and some even refer to her as Miss Annie because they form a relationship, and I can bear witness to that. We have some of the same style in terms of we take on really our clients as our family and would treat them just as if I was representing my uncle or my aunt or niece or whatever, because we know that this is your life, and it is important to you. And she forms a bond of mutual respect with her clients that goes way beyond the professionalism that you see with other folks in our line of practice. After some times, you will turn to her and know that she really cares about you and she cares about your case. She has a heart for service and she cares about her clients and make them number one. You'll find that she sets herself apart from other lawyers on how she represents her client. And I can say, and I'm adding to your bio, Annie, with respect and integrity, which if you look at my logo, that's part of who we identify as, respect, integrity, and professionalism. And so this is one of the reasons I wanted to add her to this panel, because I've seen it in practice as a colleague of hers. And she also has a goal for fighting to the end, and she does that as well. If she could say one thing about herself, she would want you to know that she probably includes her beliefs in whatever she do, and needs to collaborate that. And she is a strong spiritual foundation. And I think that that makes all of the difference in how she practices and represents her clients. And when all is said and done, and the thing that keeps her going is simply helping and getting back to people, getting back to their normal lives, getting people back to normal. And she wants to give back with her life. And when she leaves this profession, she's going to have other things to focus on, because like I said, she has many hats and she does all kinds of things with a group of children like myself. So that really makes her above the rest. And so I wanted to present to you Miss Annie Scott, who is going to be on our panel, and we're going to open up our panel discussion in a minute. But I have a mentor of mine who's on this call, who's on this panel, who has been practicing as long as I've been on the earth, okay, for 41 years. And I was like, oh, this bio is long, but I understand. I do understand. And so I am going to go through it because he deserves it. And he has been on the front line and has been practicing, like I said, for more time than we could even, some of us could imagine, to just be on the job and doing, and I'm talking about a solo practitioner. And so we're going to let you all have a little more insight about that on the panel. What's the difference between being a Black solo practitioner and being any other type of attorney? But let me give you some good background information so you understand the caliber of persons that you're going to hear from today. Warren Fitzgerald Muhammad is an honored graduate of Texas Southern University's Thurgood Marshall School of Law in Houston, Texas, class of 1979. Attorney Muhammad has excelled in the practice of personal injury, criminal defense, and business and transactional law since becoming licensed in 1979. Attorney Muhammad has extensive experience in personal injury, wrongful death, medical malpractice, civil litigation in both federal and state courts involving jury trials, writs, temporary restraining orders, and appeals. Attorney Muhammad has secured substantial settlements on behalf of injured victims against corporate defendants for injuries such as catastrophic burns, 2.5 million. I'm gonna say that again, 2.5 million, medical malpractice over 1.5 million, slip and falls, 900,000, product liability over 300,000, and also civil settlements on behalf of recording artists against such entertainment giants as Sony, Columbia Records, and Def Jam and Universal. Attorney Muhammad has practiced business law and transactional law throughout his career, advising entrepreneurs on the proper business structures and agreements to meet their needs. He is versed in all types of business entities, including but not limited to corporations, limited liability companies, series LLCs, partnerships, limited partnerships, and the like. Attorney Muhammad has represented clients before the Securities and Exchange Commission and engaged with federal authorities from Secret Service to Justice Department with regards to cryptocurrency issues. He has practiced in the business delegations to London, England, and Lima, Peru on behalf of clients in international financial transactions. I'm talking about international law. I'm talking about traveling to practice law, 41 years. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. A seasoned criminal defense lawyer, Attorney Muhammad has successfully represented dozens of citizens accused of complicated felony cases. Warren is licensed in state of Texas and federal district court for the Southern District of Texas. Over his 40 years legal career, Mr. Muhammad has obtained numerous not guilty verdicts, including not guilty verdict in an attempted capital murder on a police officer, not guilty in a sexual assault charge on a minor, not guilty in an assault on family member, getting all charges dismissed for a man charged with murder and 2 charges of aggravated robbery, 3 eyewitnesses, among many outstanding results. Sounds like somebody needs to get a pen and paper and write this number down and get his information. So if you ever in trouble. As part of his community service, Attorney Muhammad has hosted and lectured in free legal workshops. As he's doing today, he is not getting paid for giving you all of this information. So we thank you, Mr. Muhammad. And all over the city, especially in the community of his birth, Acres Home, his beloved Acres Home. These workshops include Know Your Rights, a presentation teaching citizens on their rights when stopped by law enforcement and how to negotiate and survive the encounter of coming in contact with the police. Clearing Your Records seminars, a workshop where a group of attorneys interview citizens with criminal records to determine if the records can be cleared or sealed. Wills and probate seminars explaining the process of writing a will and probate and estate planning. In 2012, Warren Fitzgerald Muhammad was appointed by the mayor as the associate judge in the municipal court for the city of Houston. In 2014, he was reappointed for a second term. His duties included, but were not limited to, handling arraignment and trial dockets, juvenile dockets, jail dockets, magistrate duties, which included search warrants and magistrate orders of emergency protection and 24-hour arrangements after arrest, performing marriage ceremonies. The good judge, you was getting people together, huh? Attorney Muhammad has since returned to private practice of law with the law office of Warren Fitzgerald, PLLC. He is also presently, today, the chairman of the board of directors and CEO of the Acres Home Chamber of Business and Economic Development, a community-based nonprofit in historic Acres Home community. That's 41 years. That's my big brother. That's my mentor. And I can tell you that I was under his feet at his tutelage. So I'm gonna take on some of that I did learn some of that and was blessed by his experience to gain a lot of information before diving myself in to the practice of law and being a baby. He helped to groom me and to grow me and to show me how it is that you practice as a solo practitioner and do all of the things that he has been able to do and survive and win. Did you hear all the wins? So we're going to open up our panel discussion. We have a lot to talk about today. And we have, as you see, as you have heard, we have experts to be able to answer some questions today. So what I wanted to do is first start off by thanking our panelists for being here and thanking you all for joining us and celebrating with us with our 16th anniversary in business. And I wanted to start off because we are still in COVID-19. We are socially distancing here in the mediation center that Manns Law Office has and runs. And we also have our panelists that are joining us virtually. And so we wanted to start off and ask the panelists, and it is open for anyone to answer, how has COVID-19 pandemic impacted you, your family, and your practice?
Okay, well, I'll start. Ladies first, as you said earlier. Thank you so much, Qiana, for having me as a panelist here, celebrating your 16th anniversary. Congratulations. Qiana has been wonderful, and she's actually one of my mentors. So thank you, Attorney Fitzgerald, for mentoring her, because she's been able to pass down a lot of that to me. And I have gleaned from all of her skill and her experience. And so I just thank you so much. And I'm honored to be here and to be selected as one of your panel guests. So COVID-19 has impacted me personally in so many different ways. As Qiana mentioned, I also have a house full of little ones, and I think I probably have the youngest ones here because mine are all under 8. Actually, they're under 7. And it's been hard. You know, the schools closed down in March, and they've been home ever since. Even when the schools had the hybrid virtual and the on-site, we decided to keep them home virtually. And so having those little ones there in the house has been a real challenge. I've turned my house into something of an indoor playground. Amazon has been one of my best friends because I've ordered everything from Connect Four to the parachute to everything that you can to try to keep the kids engaged. So it's been a challenge, but they are happy, and I think that they understand because they'll say, we can't go talk to that person because there's COVID-19, or Corona is still out there, so we can't go to the mall or to the park or anything like that. So that's how it's impacted me with my family. As far as my practice is concerned, I practice family law and criminal law, as Qiana mentioned, and as Brother Muhammad mentioned, practicing in the criminal law realm has been very challenging. Not only because we are trying to help individuals that have been accused of a crime, and some of them that are already in jail, we are not able to meet with them for the most part. Starting in March, when everything shut down, and a lot of these individuals were in jail, and I accept some of the court-appointed cases, and if they're in jail when I'm appointed, I have to figure out, how am I supposed to visit them? Unfortunately, in some of the smaller counties that I practice in, like Wharton County and Fort Bend County, they don't have access to the video technology. So we're not able to do a video visit like we do in the larger city like Harris. And so trying to help them, trying to be able to get them out, trying to communicate with their family, it was very challenging. Now, as the pandemic has, gone and grown on since then, it's become a little bit easier. But every time I visit my clients that are still in custody, I wear all my mask and my shield and my gloves. And, that's a big change in how it's impacted me there. For those that are on bond and out there in the free world, I can't meet with them in my practice. I don't bring them into my office. I don't really go to my office too often. And so it's hard trying to teach someone who is, sometimes in their 20s or 30s, but sometimes in their 50s and 60s that have been accused with some of these offenses, how to use Zoom. Zoom is not something that everybody understands, nor does everyone know what it is. And so before we would have a Zoom meeting or a Zoom appointment, someone from my office would have to call them, walk them through downloading it, setting it up, clicking on the microphone, clicking on the camera so that we can see and communicate. And that has been a challenge. And there's still quite a few individuals who don't understand Zoom. So it's impacted us in that way, but we're all learning together. We're all growing together. And as the panelists have already mentioned, the crime, the cases, the courts, they're not stopping. It's still ongoing. And we are working diligently to try to help and resolve as many cases and as many legal matters as we can.
All right, this is Brother Warren.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum
Peace.
salam.
First, I want to congratulate Sister Qiana on her sweet 16 business anniversary. And I really love, admire, and respect this sister. From the time that I first met her, it didn't take me all of a quick twinkling of the eye to realize that this was one smart, sharp sister. I mean, it was just something that was readily apparent. Her, what I call aptness and smartness about her. Many of us can become lawyers just through hard work, but we're not all smart on top of that. And the sister she's a smart cookie. So again, congratulations and thank you. COVID-19 has been a real challenge for me, as Sister Annie has talked about the cases, and Sister Qiana, the cases don't stop. People's needs for representation haven't gone anywhere. So we've had to find ways. And I think one of the things that I'm thankful for is because of the advance and being able to use technology, we can do things that a couple of decades ago would not have been possible. Believe it or not, I can remember having an office meeting when I was a very young lawyer, and I brought to the table with the older attorneys that I was in the office with that we needed to get a fax machine, and they voted it down. They said the mail was good enough. So I'm showing my age again. But it's the use of technology that enables us to still keep the pace. So with me, I'm still similar to you, Sister Annie. I go to my office very rarely, and then it's alone just because I need to get something or do something there. But my secretary works from home, and we use a case management system to store all of the files and the cases. And we use Dropbox and the different technologies, Zoom meetings, inter-office Zoom meetings and collaborations, emails, and things of that nature, so that we can still keep a pace of the needs in representing our clients. And also the use of Zoom with the criminal courts, and also I'm finding with the civil courts as well, has enabled our clients to appear by Zoom rather than being physically present in the courts, because honestly, I don't think the courts want a lot of people in the courtroom either. And so we're able to log on and appear on behalf of our clients, and have our clients appear by Zoom as well. And I even have an estate matter that we have a Zoom hearing Monday in the afternoon, and it's going to be conducted all by Zoom. So it's the use of technology that enables us to keep pace. Now, I've had some particular experience with COVID in that I, unfortunately, was a COVID victim. I actually contracted the virus. And I don't know if it was underlying issues or what, but I got very, very, very sick. I was so sick. Sister Qiana found out about it. She called me. She said, "I'm bringing you a pot of bean soup." And she and her husband did that. She cooked a pot of bean soup and brought it to me, and I lived off of that pot of bean soup for a couple of weeks. And contracting the virus and becoming as ill as I was not able to really practice for at least, I'd say about 2 months after I became negative. So I had an intense struggle to just overcome the virus, which lasted several weeks. And then after that, I would just had no energy, no strength, and I would make appointments. I even told Sister Qiana's husband, Brother Dave, was trying to meet with me on something. And I would set a meeting with him and then call him and tell him I couldn't make it because I just didn't have the strength. And I have to thank my staff, particularly my secretary, for keeping things afloat during my time of illness and convalescence, because she helped make sure I got some bills paid and kind of pushed everything back until I could get time to recuperate. So that was a added experience that I had to go through. And fortunately, I was able to recover and return back to work I'm still dealing that. One thing for those who don't know, COVID is, they really don't know what they're dealing with. Even the doctors and the professionals still don't know what they're dealing with. And many people, even such as myself, continue to experience other issues, health issues, after you're over the active stage of the virus. So I'm still, different issues are still popping up with me and working with the doctors, trying to figure out why this is happening and where that's coming from. And most of them are telling me that they think it's still a sequela of having dealt with the virus. So continue to pray for me. The struggle continues to return to health. And I thank God that I've come as far as I have, and that I will continue to do so. So that's kind of my story. And I won't take up all the time, so I'll pass it on.
And family, on that, how, pardon me, how Sister Annie mentioned with respect to how the pandemic has affected her. One thing that I find interesting is that, yes, we are able to, in some counties, when we have, when we're representing somebody who's accused of a crime and unfortunately might be, in the county facility or one of the prisons. One of the biggest problems that I have, fortunately, I guess, that I have been able to speak with clients, and some of the facilities, Harris County, Livingston County, we've been able to do the video conferencing with those whom I'm representing, who are housed in those county facilities, and I've actually done some video conferencing with persons in the federal system. But the problem is that I find, and some of us would probably, some of us on the panel would probably agree with, I'm always skeptical. Even though we're talking about, you have the attorney-client privilege, but when you are on a video or even on an audio, we don't know exactly who it is that's listening. Now, that to me is of grave concern, because even though, as we, as us practitioners know, regardless of what discipline you're practicing in, we know that certain things, with the, as you said, with the attorney-client privilege, but if certain law enforcement or investigators hear something, they may not be able to use it, but they can use it surreptitiously. And I always have a concern with that. Yes, it's one thing that you're protecting, a person's health, but on the other hand, you're up against the expectation of privacy versus trying to represent your client the best way, or the person that you're representing the best way that you can. So I'm always skeptical of that. Unfortunately, there's not much that I can do. And I always have that problem of skepticism and even representing somebody when I do parole revocation hearings that are only now done by Zoom. Well, the Sister Qiana and Sister Annie and Brother Warren and any other panelists, who's on here will attest to, anytime you have a contested hearing, you always have that issue of being able to communicate effectively with your client. And you certainly don't want, the other side, the judge or whomever, to hear your communication with your client. Well, that's a problem, because do you mute? And then if you mute, and well, particularly am I experienced or savvy enough to know that, hey, I can mute this person, but let's say the court or opposing counsel, and am I able now to speak directly or effectively with the person I'm representing? The exchanging of documents in a hearing proceeding, how is all of that protected? And so these are the things that I've actually come across and experienced and learning by trial and error. It's a difficult thing. And even as Sister Annie was saying, we have clients who are a little bit older than some of us, well, certainly like me, for instance, who doesn't know, all the particulars of Zoom and those different things. And and Sister Qiana will tell you sometimes, and our wonderful assistant, Sister Patricia, will tell you sometimes how I will, get frustrated, if somebody can't figure something out that I know how to do. And people know if I know how to do it, everybody else should be able to know how to do it. But that still is frustrating because you are trying to juggle, technology amidst this pandemic. And it's difficult, but not something that is impossible. But discussions like this and being able to throw things off of one another and be able to collaborate with one another to discuss and ascertain how, when we've been presented with these particular issues, how have you been able to overcome it, or how have you been able to navigate, through those waters? But that is a concern. Again, as Sister Annie was saying, being able to communicate with persons who, we representing, who may be incarcerated. That's difficult in this day and age, not impossible, but we're trying to work through it. Sister Qiana?
Yes, and so what I hear from everyone who has been able to speak, and what we also wanted to relay to you, that we are people, we have families, we have lives, but as Black attorneys, I can tell you that even when, like you heard, we were suffering from COVID, or we had other issues going with our family, we continue to keep our practice open, to answer our phones, to return calls, and all of that, because we are dedicated to the practice of law. And so we wanted to make sure that you know that there are attorneys out here who are working, and some of us are struggling with our own realities of coming into this COVID-19 pandemic, and able to really still thrive and live and survive in this climate with our practice. We have another esteemed panelist who has joined us. I'm going to give her her introduction and read her bio, and then we're going to move on to our next question. Beatrice Randall. Attorney Beatrice Randall is a trial attorney licensed to practice law in the state of Texas since 2006. She is magna cum laude graduate of Thurgood Marshall School of Law at Texas Southern University. We have a lot of Thurgood people on here today, where she serves as the editor of the Law Review and honorary crew. Wait, let me get this right. Where she served as the editor of the Law Review and Honor Court Chief Prosecutor. She is the principal attorney for the Randall Law Office, PLLC, where her practice areas include family law, child welfare law, juvenile delinquency, and estate planning and probate. Attorney Randall has developed a comprehensive and fully customized estate planning page that contains documents such as wills, powers of attorneys, trusts, and directives. She believes that all clients have unique needs and preferences, and is always available to listen to their concerns and accommodate them with exceptional care when creating their estate plan. She has served as a speaker presenter for several continuing legal education workshops regarding ethics in the practice of law. As a community activist, Attorney Randall has served as a member of the Star Drug Court in Harris County, designed to help reunify families involved with CPS litigation due to drug misuse and abuse. She has also served as a certified attorney and guardian ad litem for the children and family in Harris County District Courts. Attorney Randall was recently appointed to the Texas Permanency Outcomes Project Local Advisory Board. I'm getting choked up on my own words. Advisory Boards, Region 6. She is a member of the Houston Family Law Group, a charter member of the National Women of Achievement, Bayou City of Houston chapter, and serves as the second vice president of Alpha Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, She is married to Dion Randall and has two sons, Williams 13 and Isaiah 3, and she has joined us on our panel. She is another one who I have had the opportunity and the pleasure to work with, and so everything in her bio is true. I can tell you that. All the things that she says about her activism and her community efforts, and also the work that she does in the court, and her expertise and the way that she brings her representation to her clients in the court is fierce. She is one of those who, when you get a case with her, you like, damn, she on the case. And so we have that reputation that we share together. And so it has been a joy to be her colleague and to work with us. And so she has been a great addition to this panel, and I'm glad you were able to join us. And we're going to move to our next question. Because we all have presented and responded with the different personal things that we have had to encounter with our families and in our personal lives with COVID-19, and also in our practice, we wanted to explore how now have your legal services changed, and how now are you able to provide the legal services that you need to provide to clients or one interested in obtaining your service during this COVID-19 pandemic.
Right. Thank you, Attorney Manns, for that introduction. And I just want to share something briefly. One thing about Qiana is that she is fierce in her own right. And what I love about her is that she truly speaks truth to power, right? So she has been, asked to present at the Texas Bar CLEs, these big CLEs. And mind you, the practice of family law is not as diverse as we would like, but when she presents, she stands up there and calls a spade and talks about minority children in the family law system, and makes people uncomfortable, but is telling the truth. And that's what I appreciate about her. So thank you for doing that, and for not being afraid to do that. And we need to hear that. So thank you. So I wanted to just share that about you, so everyone knew that that you take it to them at the state bar level. So thank you. But quickly, to kind of answer your question, just the firm had to pivot immediately. So first thing, and I'm grateful for being a part of other organizations that also had to pivot to kind of give a roadmap of how to kind of still continue to be successful. So Zoom has become my friend, and I've tried to become a subject matter expert in how to use Zoom. Because then you become valuable to other attorneys. Sometimes you become valuable to judges, because now you're able to navigate the software and to make the hearing smooth and to help them out. So that was the first thing, becoming kind of an expert in how to use the Zoom technology. And then just being upfront with any client or potential client. And I told them, I said, I am moving to a completely virtual and contactless business. You will not see me in person. Don't try to come to the office. We're not going to have a meeting. We're either going to do Zoom or also Google Duo. That's an app that I use on my phone, and I use that a lot with children or teenagers. That's kind of the app that they prefer. So that gives me kind of a diverse way to communicate. So either Zoom or Google Duo or FaceTime or Google Hangouts. So diversify your technology because that will help you be able to communicate to, your different the different people, the different clients, or the different people that you need to communicate, and still, email and things like that. And then finally, the one thing that's important for attorneys is that this is a business and you need to get paid. And so I can say that I'm traditional and kind of old school. I didn't want to use the credit card or the Zelle system, but that works. That works, and people use, I think, my case to get their payment. So that does work, but there are fees associated with that. And I just never wanted to have to pay those fees or extend them to the client. So again, I'm old school. So I checks or money order or cash. And so what I've done is I got with the bank that I use, and now my clients are able to, or potential clients, if they need to make a payment or retain, they can actually go to the bank themselves and go through the drive-through and make their deposit into the account. I only have to give them the last 4 digits of the account number, and they're able to make those payments, and then I can see them on the app. So we've just gone virtual and contactless, and I think it's kind of taken the stress out of, you know, the pandemic being stressful, but then whatever legal issue you're going through being stressful as well. So that's it.
Thank you. Did anyone else want to chime in on that question?
I'll piggyback off of what Sister Beatrice said. I think just making it very clear to our clients how they can communicate with us, how they can retain our services. It's great for the clients that we already have existing, but if you want to grow your practice during this time, you can't just wait for the phone to ring, and you can't just wait for them, I guess, really for the phone to ring, because you have to be out there in other ways. So what I've done, instead of kind of folding and waiting for something to happen, I've tried to see what I can do to kind of strike those sticks together or shake those trees and make things happen by my efforts. And so I had a Facebook page already. Everybody's on Facebook more now than ever. I mean, everyone's all over the internet. So I set up my Facebook page, but I've continued to add new material to it, even if it's just a holiday greeting or a posting of a couple of reviews that have been left. One of the first things I did was let everybody know that we will not be meeting you in person, like Sister Beatrice. We will now be virtual. You can meet with us on Zoom. You can meet with us over the phone. We can have a consultation on FaceTime or Duo or Teams or wherever you feel comfortable and whatever access or apps you have. But we will not be meeting with you in person. The other thing is, a lot of people aren't familiar with it, but I set up a Google My Business page in the Google directory. And if you do that, it actually will, allow you to put your address in, and you could have a map created as to where you are. So when they're searching in their Google IP address at home, that Google map and those little creepy crawlers that Google has will find the nearest lawyer or the nearest service that is, that matches what they're looking for. So I go onto my Google My Business once or twice a week. And again, I just make a general post. I'll post my, a happy holiday or happy weather. So sorry it's raining. Are you surviving during the pandemic? I cut and paste a lot of what they're saying about the PPE and the safety protocols, and I'll just slap it on my page. But again, Google finds that, and it, highlights your results in the searches that are being made, and then they can find you. So those are two things that I do. I even updated my Yelp page, because people do use Yelp for reviews to see what kind of things people are saying about you. So I guess what I'm saying is I became very proactive in letting those folks in the World Wide Web know that I'm out here, know that I exist. I put a link to my website on every post that I make with my phone numbers and my hours of operation, and more than anything, in bold black face type. I am not open in person, but I am open and I am working. It is all virtual, but we can serve you in the same ways. And so that's how I've been able to continue to have, business coming in and not kind of just waiting for the phone to ring. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of other things to do anyway, if we're not in court via Zoom or working on the cases in the office. So for new business, those are some of my efforts.
And I would also say, family, that, and I have to give, again, credit, not necessarily to pat someone on the back, but as Sister Qiana knows that even if we were not here, I would still say the same thing. Sister Qiana is a head and was ahead of the curve. When this pandemic hit, 2 weeks, I believe it was, or within a week or two before the governor had issued the stay-at-home order, Sister Qiana had scheduled a conference call with between myself and our assistant, Sister Patricia, and said, we need to come up with a game plan to work remotely because, as she said, this thing is going to get worse in the next couple of days. So she was ahead of the curve and had put the mechanisms already in place. We had made sure that that our office, that our supplies, that our files and everything were taken from or moved from the office to a remote location. Sister Patricia was extremely instrumental in those things, so that when the stay-at-home order hit, we didn't blink an eye, we just rolled with it because, again, and I'm saying this, family, Sister Qiana was ahead of the curve. And I say this because I guess about a week after that, I had gone on one of the state bars. They had this seminar. And this was about a week after we had our meeting. And these panel of attorneys said the same exact things that Sister Qiana had already said and implemented. And so I'm going to dovetail with that, with what Sister Beatrice said with respect to Sister Qiana and tying in something else. You know, family, for those of you who know me, I speak very straight when it comes to certain things. And one thing that comes to mind when I was listening to that and putting everything together is we have a tendency to think that the white man's ice is colder. And so when I listened to that seminar a week after, I was saying, man, look at this. We have this, these people are saying the same exact things that Sister Qiana was saying and implemented in our office. So the white man's ice is not colder. And just as Sister Beatrice was saying, Sister Qiana is not afraid to tell it like it is, regardless to who the audience is. And because she's putting together this panel, I know this might be going a little bit off topic, but because she's putting this panel together and having those, you know, and the audience listening to this, knowing fully well that yes, these panelists are the ones who are concerned about the persons with whom they have entrusted us to represent their affairs. And so, as Sister Qiana and Sister Patricia will tell you, similar to what Sister Beatrice and Attorney Scott said, you know, that certain things that Sister Qiana insisted that I get is Zelle, you know, in order so that because we're working remotely, and she made it very clear, we are not meeting with clients. We're not going to expose any of our office staff to this pandemic. So Athill, you had better get Zelle to ensure that your clients pay and these different things. We had better get the post office box and these different things. All of these things ahead of the curve. And then, as I said, so I'm really wondering, will those people listening in on Sister Qiana's instruction to our office, and that probably formed some of the things and the issues that they were talking about. And so we have to embrace the technology that we have. Yes, we are now working remotely, and Sister Qiana has instilled and put in place every week. We have an office meeting to ascertain and go through the things that, how are we doing with supplies and all of these different things, because again, even though the pandemic is there, it is not stopping the obligations that we have. And so, yes, I agree, you know, also with Sister Beatrice in that I was reluctant, thinking, let's say that Zelle, that's going to be an additional fee, but it's not. And so all these other different things that Sister Qiana and her family looked into, making it easier so that the pandemic doesn't put extra stressors on us or the persons in whom we represent. Those things are there. And Sister Qiana is, again, ahead of the curve on that. And so we've taken advantage of Zelle, of what do you call those credit card things and different things, all in order for us to be able to continue to serve our clients while we maintain our safety and security as well.
And I want to say to the audience, what you are hearing is the things that have now been put in place to better assist you and to serve you in this climate. And I want you to listen to some of the things now that the attorneys are saying that they are utilizing, so that now you can have access to those same platforms. You can go out to utilize those same platforms to access legal service providers. And so we were talking about Zoom, and we're talking about Duo, and we're talking about Google. We're talking about getting on Facebook. We're talking about doing the social media. So we are there. We are here. As far as the access to us, I've heard all the attorneys really make sure that they made it a point to keep the communication lines open. And so that's one of the things that I want you as the listeners to take from this, that they have made an effort to keep the communication lines open so that you have access to proper legal services. And I don't believe that it costs to download the Duo app. I don't believe that it costs to do a Zoom. If you're wanting to do a meeting of a large capacity or something of that magnitude, then yes. But if you're just talking about doing a consult, or you're going to jump on a hearing or something, you need that. And that's what we're telling you. To be able to serve you in this climate, which you're here, everybody is attempting to do, then you need to access some of these things as well. And we do have some courts here in Harris County and various counties, contiguous counties to Harris counties, that are practicing and opening their courts via Zoom. I am literally in hearings from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock on Zoom, sitting in one place in front of the computer, taking on clients, cross-examination, presenting evidence, all of the above. And so we are functioning, and that's how it's going right now. And so if you have or think that you're going to have a legal matter that you need to resolve, then you need to make sure that you are equipped and have some understanding about these platforms as well, because that's where it is now. It also, there are courts who also do offer the ability to come into court to litigate your matter. Some attorneys are taking advantage of that and some are not. There are still jurors who are going out and who there are trials now that's being set. It is not at the capacity or the pace that I know we all were accustomed to. And everyone on the panel is a solo practitioner who has their own firm, their own business. And we have definitely been able to, or had to be able to adjust with the courts as they adjust. And so some of the cases that we normally take as far as the in-person cases, each attorney has to make that decision for themselves, whether they will want to do an in-person hearing with the restrictions and the COVID guidelines being followed, or whether they would want their hearings to be also virtual with the courts that are now operating in that regards. And as potential clients, as potential litigants, you are also going to have to make that decision as well. What was really crucial for me is thinking about the population that I serve. Most of my clientele are middle to upper class in the age range of 30 and up. And so we do have some issues in terms of those who are more affected by the pandemic. And so I wanted to make sure that they were well aware of, everything that was going on, and they had the ability to access us. And I can say this, and I can say this honestly, that most Black attorneys are the hardest working attorneys I've ever met. In practicing in family law for now 16 years, big up, I'm sweet 16. I can say that in all of my experiences, these attorneys, they come prepared, they come ready, they are knowledgeable, and they, as you hear, make sure that you are at the forefront of their minds, in their lives and in their practice. And so to go as far as to ensure that you have the ability, and like Beatrice said, to become a subject matter expert in Zoom, to put on an additional hat, that you didn't have before, to ensure that you understand the process and she's able to better serve you. That's a big deal. And that's a big deal right now in the stage that we're in, that we may be in for a while, that you have an attorney who's willing to take that amount of time out with you and care for you to ensure that you can get your legal matter processed and have it done to the ability where you feel like you understand and that you are a part of the process. And so my next question is to the panelists. We now are in this virtual, semi-virtual world. Some of you may have a hearing, especially I think some of our criminal attorneys. I know I have colleagues who actually go in and they have hearings in person. What has, now that you have kind of changed up the way that you practice and we've adjusted to some of the COVID restriction, what have you seen in the courts that you think should stay? And what have you seen in the courts and in your practice that you are ready to be done with and you're over, so to speak, at this point?
Okay, I can take a shot at that. One of the things that I think should stay is the virtual appearances, especially on routine matters. It never made sense to me why we would have to go to court and be caught up in court for a couple of hours just to get a reset. So there are a lot of simple things that I think that the court system have had to adopt that just make a lot of sense. I saw one judge conduct court. I know that he was still sitting in bed, and it was fine with me, but I think the fact that we no longer have to pile up in the courtroom for routine matters is a change that has been overdue, and I hope that it stays going forward.
And I'll jump in on that one. I totally agree, especially in the family law where it's so time consuming and paper oriented, like we have to file everything, then file it again and then come back and file it again and then kind of sit for hours with our clients who are very, I can only speak for myself in terms of doing this for the past 15 years. We're talking about people, intimate affairs. So they're very anxious. It's a lot on them to be in this process. And sometimes, like you said, we're sitting for 2 and 3 hours on a matter that's going to take 10 minutes. And they're going through all of this anxiety and worry about, just getting it done and over with. And at this point, I can actually submit an agreed order with an affidavit and push a button and tell them we're done, you're divorced. Mm-hmm. They have really been loving that. And I'm getting emails back, with the praise hands and the hallelujah and all of this stuff, and getting calls and like, are you sure? Like it's over? And I'm like, yes, it's over, without having to, go through the emotional turmoil of it all in terms of ending and resolving. And I can tell you, even if it's in your favor, it still is a lot when you're dealing with personal family law issues. And so even if my client wins, they want to know when it's over, and they want to know how soon it's going to be over with. because they want to go back to their normal lives. So I do hope that that is something that can stay. I also like the ability, especially when I am representing, I'm appointed in a lot of cases, and I'm representing indigent clients, with the ability to not have to worry about trying to come down there and, find transportation, get away to court, also to pay for parking. I mean, we all know, because this is just kind of part of our budget, but it's $15 and up to come and park downtown, and to have the expenses of being there all day, having to go stop for lunch and just everything that comes with it. So I like that, having to be able to have my clients to be able to not worry about some of those expenses. And I'll tell you all too, as far as the legal cases are concerned, I think we're some of the most underpaid attorneys, Black attorneys, in terms of the amount of work we do and what we charge for it. But it also, and I'm taking into account you and the people that we serve, it also minimizes your bill. Because if I'm driving and we're both driving and we're both sitting for 2 hours, yes, indeed, you're paying me for those 2 hours I'm sitting in court, because that's the time that I'm dedicating to your matter, to to the process. And so that is time, and you pay for attorneys' time. And we, bill, most of us, $200 to $250 to $300 an hour. Our senior, colleague here, who's won like $2.5 million settlements, I'm gonna let him say his fees. But as far as that is concerned, it really does give our clientele an opportunity to have efficient and effective service without the bill being so high for the process, in terms of the process to take place in court, when we can get some of these things done virtually and have that minimize their bill in some aspects. So I wanted to just add in on that.
Sister Qiana, if I may, one of the things that I've done just recently, I'm always looking for new technology and software that can help my practice. And I just recently changed. I've used in the past year extensively case management software, where we store all of our cases, our calendar, our communications, can capture emails. And I just switched over to another brand that actually combines the case management with back office. And it allows me to do the accounting, actually issue checks from the system, and have it, rather than having to use case management and then QuickBooks and then something else. I was able to find something that put everything under one roof. So we intend to implement that with the first of the year, and hopefully that'll streamline things even more.
What's the software that you're using? I'm curious. What's this new software?
It's called Zola Suite.
Zola?
Zola, Z-O-L-A, Suite, S-U-I-T-E.
Awesome.
And I want to thank my daughter for finding that for me. She just, I don't know if any of y'all know my daughter, Jeray Cole. She just used to be a prosecutor years ago, and now she's gone into private practice. So she found the latest and the best. So I want to thank her.
And I love the fact that, and this is what we do. And I just wanted you all to see that. And that's why also I wanted, and I thought it was important, because I'm going to tell you, I don't see anybody talking about the efforts that Black attorneys are making in this hour, and just the work that we do as far as how we serve the community. I'm hearing, let's buy Black, let's support Black. And we also need to take that to the professional class as well, and make sure that we are out here supporting Black professionals. We, as you see, offer each other information. We're here for each other. We are our support system as far as in this field. And I'm going to hand it over to my co-moderators to give you some more statistics on what it is that we're talking about here today.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you again, Sister Qiana. You know, what I find interesting, and I really, hope that the audience, not necessarily the attorneys, but those who are listening, who are looking for attorneys, know this very, what I consider alarming statistic. The American Bar Association did a study recently where they stated that, or the study concluded that 5% of the attorneys in this country are Black, whereas we make up, some statistics may say 13, 14, maybe even 15% of the population, and yet only 5%, as I said, of only 5% of the attorneys in this country are Black. Of that 5%, the study suggests that 28%, or just close to 30% of us work for either state agencies or federal government. And only about less than 15%, I think the study suggested about 12%, are in solo practice. Now, if you want to mic that down to the state of Texas, only 4% of the attorneys who practice in this state are Black. And yet, as Brother Warren will attest to, and Sister Qiana, and those, and Sister Annie, and Ms. Beatrice would attest to, our problems, though, the persons who we represent, Black people in these court systems, we are on any given day 70, 80% of those in this courtroom. So my point is, family, this. I recall years ago, I was on a panel discussion and we were talking about similar things. And I made this statement, that the passion of representing or being a lawyer is there, but there's something more to, let's say, being passionate when we represent our own. Because I've said this and I believe this, and I'll go to my grave thinking this. Who better to represent you than somebody who has a similar experience, or who actually could be going through something similar if it were not for one or two steps that we may have taken? As I constantly say to people, and this panel that I was on, it was with a Black preacher, and he was making the leap that the number of people is because of decisions that we make as Black people. Well, partly true. But the other thing I told him was, at 2:00 in the morning, if you're driving, a particular vehicle in River Oaks or here in Sunnyside, or no matter what city that you're in, you stand more, the likelihood of you getting pulled over is so much greater because of the color of your skin. And so it goes to then, what the new term is, driving while Black. Or as Sister Qiana and the other panelists would suggest, in the with the family court, when you're there and you look at those of our young people who are accused in juvenile offenses, we are so underrepresented because, again, we only, speaking of Texas, are 4% of the attorneys. And that is an alarming figure. And as I was saying earlier, getting to when I was saying about the white man's ice is cold, that is the mindset that some of us have. But I'm letting you know, family, the white man's ice is not colder. Even though we may be a small percentage, and as Sister Qiana said, when she goes into the courtroom, we are some of the hardest. In fact, we are the hardest working attorneys, but the ones who make the least amount of money. So we have to buy Black, support Black. And of course, as the scripture says, to whom much is given, much is required. And so because we are Black attorneys, we do have, in my opinion, a level of dedication and service that we must give, to those who don't have voices, because we have been placed in a position to be able to represent, be able to, be that voice. And so we have to make sure that even if that 4% number of 4% of the attorneys are Black, we have to make sure that if that number doesn't change, we have to make sure, though, that that 4%, as we are part of that 4%, that we make sure that we give 100% of service and dedication to those in whom we represent.
And thank you. So we're talking about support today. And I can say I'm only able to celebrate 16 years of Manns Law Office and to be able to serve and practice as an attorney and a mediator because of your support. And so we are just urging you to continue to do that in this hour, especially as you're going through your transitions and you're going through your new adjustments. You can hear that so are we, but we have you in our hearts and on our mind as we do that in terms of our practices and how we are operating in this hour. And we're going to close out. We're going to have one last question. As far as the previous statistics that were given in terms of the rise of domestic disputes and some of the rise in the crime rate, so to speak, not necessarily the misdemeanor crimes, but other types of crimes. I know I was looking at the news just this morning, and on the news, they said that there were 6 fatalities as of last night with violence. And, the thing is that we all are, of course, dealing, and some of us not in the best manner, dealing with some of the stresses of COVID-19. And we have to, of course, also, I think, encourage our Black psychologists and therapists and counselors to get on something of similar magnitude like this, to really talk and have open dialogue about the services that they offer and what it is that they can do in this hour for our community and to better serve in their profession. But I wanted to ask the question, as far as the different things that we're hearing that's happening and that's developing legally with the crime and the domestic violence, and with, of course, as I shared, some of the issues with the courts in terms of families breaking apart, custody litigations, writ of attachments, disputes within the families. How can we better serve in this hour during the COVID-19 to assist or alleviate their concerns about accessing proper legal representation and about getting their cases heard or their matter dealt with in a timely fashion during COVID-19?
Well, in regard to some of the criminal matters that you've mentioned, the rise in assault, family violence, there's also a rise in the DWI or DUI and public intoxication charges, or at least what I've seen in my practice. I'd never gotten so many of those back to back as I have this year. What I think that the folks out there need to know is that, while we shut down in March, the courts have began to open, slowly at first, and now it seems as though we are running almost at the 100% mark, but it's virtual for the most point. There are courts that are in person. There are courts that are doing a hybrid with the virtual and the in-person. For the criminal cases, we just recently started taking plea bargains and handling pleas before the court virtually for the first time ever. I want to say it started in about September or so. first with the jail courts and those that are in custody, being able to sit them in front of an iPad and have the detention officer standing right there with them. And then us going over the paperwork where myself, I'd have to go visit them. We'd go over it, we'd sign it, but then we'd scan it and turn it into the court, and we could have our plea right there on the screen. They just recently in Fort Bend started to have full pleas of persons that are out there on bond. And so you're out there, as long as you have a phone or a computer, or you can access one, you're able to take your plea in some of those courts in front of the judge with the prosecutor on the other screen and myself or your defense attorney on another screen. And we're doing it right there. And the main issue, which I think took so long, was they didn't know how to get your thumbprint that you have to put on the plea paper, on the judgment. But they realized we don't have to have the thumbprint right now as we're taking the plea. You can come in before 5 o'clock today, or you can come in the day before the plea or the day after the plea and put your thumbprint on that judgment at your convenience. And so we've done the plea, you go in on your own time and put your thumbprint on the judgment, and we're now able to effectuate pleas. And so if you think that your case is going to be going on and on and on and nothing's going to happen, that's not true. If your case is going to be dismissed, you may never have to see the front of the courtroom or the inside of the courtroom. If your case is going to take a plea, then like I just stated, you can do that virtually as well. The only real hurdle here is if you're going to need a jury trial. So if you have a very serious case or even a minor case and you want a trial, then it's going to have to wait until we're able to safely impanel jurors, because unfortunately, my personal opinion, and I think that of quite a few criminal defense attorneys, is you don't want a jury trial virtually. It's going to be completely against your interest to do so. So that's how we're still going forward.
Sister, if I may, what came to my mind when you were talking about, you and Brother Athill were talking about the rise of certain types of cases from people being basically under house arrest, because people who may not get along are now having to live with each, spend that time in the house together. And so domestic violence is going up. People can't go about as easily and freely as before. So now maybe they have a drink at home and then they get in the car and go somewhere. And what just comes to mind is the admonition that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has given us, in that God, Allah, whatever name we want to call him, has put us all under house arrest, so to speak. And this COVID pandemic is stressful to everyone, because we're living in a time that just no one has seen. And so it's a time that we all, and I'm encouraging all of the viewers, is that we have to take stock of our spiritual well-being and our mental well-being, and do the things that will enhance us as people to learn how to solve the problems that are in front of us without doing any things that'll get us into trouble, and how to work on the relationships that we have to improve those relationships. So there's a silver lining in this, in that it's a time that we have time now to address a lot of things that we may have ignored or not taking full stock of in our daily lives.
And I'm glad that you mentioned that. As far as what we all understand, we are typically noted in part of our training and professionalism we are called attorneys and counselors. And so we do, and I want the public to know that we also do have the ability to help you through some of these things and counsel you through some of these questions that you have in terms of legal questions, as far as how to handle this. Is this proper? how do we alleviate, having to throw hands and be able to come to some type of an agreement. What it is should be my next step if, Dad or Uncle Jim or somebody passed without a will. You don't necessarily always have to retain an attorney and file something to have the ability to utilize the expertise and the knowledge of an attorney. So you can call for a consultation, you can call for a meeting with attorneys to give you a little more knowledge base on what you're dealing with to help get you through a certain time or a certain issue that you're dealing with. I am a mediator. We have many mediators who are on the panel here. We are trained to help resolve issues. That's another license, another certification that some of us have gone the extra mile to obtain, where you can come to us. We're at the Mediation Center. That was open for that particular reason, that you can come to have a neutral person, somebody who don't know you or the other person, to come in and to help you resolve a matter. It could be contractual. We have a lot of businesses and we haven't even talked about that. That's why we have to have more seminars to really talk. We have a lot of businesses who are, suffering from COVID, who have partnerships. Now they're in conflict, who have, different things going on with staff, because we are all getting adjusted to a new normal. And so you have the ability to have mediations and mediators there available to walk you through a process where it does not have to get to a position or to a status of I'm filing this against you or you're filing that against me. We can help alleviate some of those issues. We can help gain you all to a common, get you all to a common ground, so to speak. And so that's another service. That's another way that we can assist in this hour, as far as with some of the statistics that have been what we're noticing in terms of the rise of the domestic violence cases and family feuds and all of the other things. You can have access to mediation services. And so I wanted to make sure that the public is aware of that. And even if the mediation service is not something that you want or need at this time, you still have access to an attorney who is also a counselor, not a therapist, but a counselor, to help you deal with things that you may know have some legal bearing into how you operate or what you do, and may have consequences. And so you want somebody to guide you through that process. And so I'm just honored to be on this panel with you all, to host it. And I am hoping that we're going to have more to come. This was a jump off, and I'm so thankful that you all decided to join us as we celebrate 16 years of being in practice, and prayerfully we make it to 41 years like our esteemed colleague here. And I want to give you all an opportunity to have closing remarks and let our people know who are watching how to reach you, where to find you, so if they do need your legal service.
Okay, am I unmuted? Okay, thank you again, Sister Qiana, for hosting this wonderful panel, and I'm really happy to have shared the platform with such esteemed colleagues. Again, my name is Warren Fitzgerald Muhammad, or Warren F. Muhammad, the law office of Warren Fitzgerald Muhammad. My number is 800-397-9760. My website is wfmlawfirm.com, and my email is warren@wfmlawfirm.com. So as Sister Qiana said, if you have an issue or just need somebody to talk things through, some, whatever the case may be. And let me just add, Sister Qiana, I know a lot of people may ask, why is an attorney considered a counselor? Well, see, when you've worked in an area 10, 15 years, 20, 30, 40 years, you have gained so much experience. A lot of times you can tell where things are going to end up by the way they're going. So I just wanted to add that enhance or aids us in being able to counsel people as well as represent them legally. So thank you very much again. Peace.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Qiana, for again hosting this webinar. I think it's very informative, and I am also very honored to be on the panel with such esteemed colleagues. My office is named the Law Office of Annie Scott. My phone number for the office is 281-846-5020, and my website is anniescott.net. We handle criminal and family matters and simple wills, and we are always available to help anyone to get their life back. Thank you.
And again, Sister Qiana, I want to thank you so very much for this opportunity. And in talking about, I'm going to be real brief on this one. So many people have always said that judges, same thing will say, Athill, God, here he comes again. He's going to be a long one, but they know I'm thorough. But, you know, as Sister Qiana was saying that, yes, we are counselors. And as Brother Warren was saying too, one thing with COVID-19 that one of the another good friend of ours, Pamela Muhammad, who's also a practicing attorney, she told me one time that PTSD is something that is real. And I used to just think, you know, when we would hear PTSD, I would just associated that with war and soldiers. But she was telling me that we suffer from PTSD, and there's going to be an awful lot of psychological, emotional concerns that people have with respect to COVID-19 and other issues. But now, obviously, since we're within this pandemic, and so that's where I think, as Sister Qiana was saying, these mediation services, these counseling services can come into play. How am I going to be able to, you know, overcome some of these things? Now, we're not psychologists, some of us are psychiatrists or whatever, but we understand and should know that, yes, PTSD is real as it pertains to issues such as, you know, our current pandemic. And so those who might be listening, you know, who are counselors, who are licensed therapists, be on guard that these are some issues that may also be coming down the pike. And we as attorneys also have to know that we're not adverse to these PTSD issues. We're not immune from these sort of things here. And the studies and statistics have shown that some attorneys have the highest rates of substance abuse, have the highest rates of, you know, blood pressure or high blood pressure and these sorts of things. And it's only exacerbated by, you know, and can only be exacerbated by, you know, COVID-19. So we've got to be mindful and wary of those things. Another thing that we have to be mindful of, as Sister Qiana was suggesting with us being counselors, I've been on SBA panels when this pandemic first happened, and I was asked to discuss things with respect to returning to work amidst COVID-19, and a number of questions would come about with respect to the impending vaccine, whether or not, you know, what are our, you know, civil rights, constitutional rights with respect to vaccine, what are our rights with respect to donning masks, if we, what are our rights if we're, you know, saddled with the responsibility if our employers make us come back to work. What are our alternatives? Well, you know, I've been on panels, and those are some of the things that I handle also with respect to Title VII and EEOC matters. And I always tell people then, to get a better understanding of everything that I do, my website is www.your4justice.com. So in other words, it's yoursearchforjustice.com. And I can be reached on my direct line virtually 24 hours a day at 713-807-8167. But most important, and before I leave, I want to thank you and congratulate you once again, Sister Qiana, for your Sweet 16 And in 30, what is this? We're in 2020. So in 2032, we're going to say Sweet 16 times 2. Congratulations, my dear. Thank you so very much for the honor and for your counsel, because, you know, with your assistance, you have helped me to be a better and stronger attorney and representative of our people. Thank you.
And I did not pay my co-host to say any of that, just so you all are aware. And so I want to give out Beatrice, Attorney Beatrice Randall's information. She had to leave, but I'm so honored and happy that she was able to join this Sweet 16 panel. Her office number is 832-439-8736. Again, that's 832-439-8736, and she can be reached by email at 2xrandall@gmail.com. And so if you want a strong advocate in family and all of the other things that I listed that she does in her bio, she would be one to call as well. And so again, we want to thank you. You can reach Manns Law Office, PLLC, at 713-589-6404, 713-589-6404. Thanks to our social media director and administrator. We are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all of the stuff. So you can reach us on all of the social media platforms, and you can reach me at my email. It's kianam@att.net. And we have our website, Manns Law Office. And so find us, research us, Google us, do anything that you need to do to make sure that you are represented in this hour and that your legal needs are being met. We are all here to serve you, and we want you to know that we will try to continue to offer these webinars throughout this pandemic. There's a lot of things that my co-host just discussed that brought different webinars to my mind that we're going to be offering to allow you to have more knowledge, to have a sense of security, that we're here, that we're working for you, and that you can get your legal matters resolved, even during COVID-19, because they do not quarantine. So thank you for joining us. Thank you all for celebrating Sweet 16 with us.
Sister Qiana, before you conclude, I did see a chat question that had come in, was asking if the panelists can give their information again. I don't know. So please, thank you.
Ms. Scott, could you provide your information again?
Yes. My office number is 281-846-5020. We are called the Law Office of Annie Scott, and our website is anniescott.net, and Annie is spelled A-N-N-I-E.
Thank you. The 41 years veteran, the $2.5 million verdicts. Give out your number, brother.
You're gonna make people think I got a lot of money. I'll spend it all. Okay, my number again is 800-397-7760. And you can reach me or my secretary at that number in case it's something administrative you just need. Website, wfmlawfirm.com, and email is warren@wfmlawfirm.com.
And I will say that he is a master in the courtroom. So if I am ever accused of anything, that's who will be defending me. And so write down these numbers, please. Make sure you have the information and access. My co-host, please provide your information again.
My direct number, 713-807-8167. Our general office number is 713-589-6404. Thank you. And my website address is yoursearchforjustice.com. That is YOURSEARCH, the number 4, JUSTICE.com. Thank you again, family.
So thank you all. Support, support, support. Support Black professionals. Support Black attorneys. We're here for you. Thank you, guys.